to invite Doris to read next. So welcome, Doris Fiszer. Doris is the author of If I Were a River, published in 2023 by Silverbow Publishing. Her debut collection, Locked in Different Alphabets, also published by Silverbow Publishing, was a finalist for the 2021 Archibald Lampman Award. Recently, she took part in the writing of a collaborative poem, The Suitcase Poem, which was published as a chapbook by Above Ground Press in 2025. She was awarded the 2017 John Newlove Poetry Award and Trees Press 2016 Chapbook Award for the binders, also a nominee for the BP Nicol Chapbook Award. Sasanka Wildflower, her third chapbook, was published by Bywords in 2017. Doris's poems have appeared in a variety of journals and anthologies across Canada and the US, and she serves as first reader for ARC Poetry magazine. That's very cool. We're really happy to have you here today, Doris, and I'll just invite you to share some poetry from If I Were a River. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Megan. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. It's so great being here. And first of all, I want to say thank you to everyone for being here today. Family, my kids are here, friends, fellow poets. Maybe it's evening or afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're zooming in from. Also, I would like to thank Candace James, publisher of Silverbow Publishing, for believing in my writing and publishing both my books, Locked in Different Alphabets and If I Were a River, and for organizing this dual reading. What an amazing experience. Thank you to Megan for hosting us. And as always, it is such an exciting experience to be reading with my dear, dear friend and amazing poet, Susan J. Atkinson. So before I read, I'd like to tell you a little bit about my book, If I Were a River. Just going to hold it up so you can see what a beautiful, beautiful cover it is. And this cover was designed by Candace, and it's one of her paintings called A River Runs Through It. So I think it's absolutely stunning, and it goes perfectly with my book and the themes in the book as well. Now, this book was written through the pandemic, and a time, I'm sure we all remember, of collected uncertainty, isolation, fear, school, work closures. Some of us lost loved ones. My husband, Bruce, ended up in hospital for 16 days in St. John, Newfoundland in 2022 with COVID and pneumonia after a 10-day tour of the province. It was a traumatic 16 days, but thankfully he recovered. Some of my poems that I will share today were prompted by my pandemic experience. Other poems are about my departed family members, my loved ones, who appear to me in my dreams. The first poem I'm going to read is I Linger in the Doorway, which is also the first line of my poem. I linger in the doorway of my childhood, though I've lost the key. I've lingered in all the other doorways where I've dwelled. The pages of the past crumpled on the steps like a rustle of autumn leaves. My first bike, first kiss, wedding day, each son's birth, divorce, remarriage, loved ones' deaths, as easy to recall as morning light through a kitchen window. The rest of lifetime's grief and bliss swirl in a gritty wind. I'm buried in remembrances, dreams with slanting floors where objects shift and vanish. The next poem was prompted by the question, how do we arrive? It's called Origins. I pocketed starlight before I was born, roamed the cosmos, explored the surface of the moon, planned my beginning. I knew by watching. The man hovers over the woman, his talk a warm buzz of love. The woman arranges his favorite cookies on a plate, stirs honey into his tea. They hold hands, walking. I was not yet born, but I knew in this coming life I'd shoulder their sufferings. Do we choose the ones who birth us? The light I collected shone through them. I sprinkled moon dust on their bed. My story as worthy as any other. Who knows how we arrive? If we carry fragments of other lives from the blackness like tiny scars of memory. My next poem is about my babcha, or grandmother. Babcha. Nightly rituals in our shared bedroom. You kneel in front of the bed, pray the rosary. You ask if I'm asleep. Don't wait for a response. Nightly deluge of advice. Stand this way to look slimmer. Don't slump. Let your future husband think he's always right. You retell the prank you played, how you hid your fiancé's fedora every time he'd visit. Your gush of girlish giggles, the only man you dated. A grandfather I wish I'd met. You dole out your sufferings in faltering whispers. Both parents dead from Spanish flu. Home demolished in the Warsaw Uprising. Husband's body in the scorched rubble. My mother's near death after the war. Waited silence when I probe further. I'm dying, aren't I? You asked me. No one here tells me anything. You didn't bother the nurses when in hospital. Walked yourself to the bathroom the day you died. My grandmother was a very strong woman. My parents and grandmother, they went through the Second World War, all of them in Nazi camps. They were born in Poland, but their Nazi camps were in Germany. My brother and I were born in Canada. My mother suffered a lot of health issues because of the war, and she died unexpectedly when she was 69. Now, she comes to me often in my dreams, and we have conversations. Now, the next three are very short poems. They're haiku. I think most of you are familiar with haiku, Japanese form, 3 lines. So I'm just going to read them to you. A screen door ajar, my departed visit in dreams. Not wanting to wake, I linger over tea with my mother. Empty cup filled with her conversation. The next one is a dream, but so real when I have them, and so hard to wake up after. Waiting. Lit cigarette in one hand, red clutch purse in the other. My mother is waiting at the bus stop at the corner of Montgomery and Sherbrooke, an Air Canada suitcase on the pavement. Wait, I say, I need to pack. Her voice directs, don't forget the crystal vase, the one that held your first red rose bouquet, and the lint brush. I cannot find my suitcase. I throw my jeans, 3 summer dresses, roller skates, a frying pan, a purple striped hoodie into a green garbage bag. I cannot find my shoes. I race around the apartment, past crumpled sheets, past my younger self, sitting on the sofa, reading Cosmopolitan. Uncooked porridge stares at me with 2 raisin eyes in the kitchen. Wait, I'm not ready, I cry down to my mother through the open kitchen window. But she has vanished. A chihuahua tied to the cement post is waiting. waiting for someone. The scent of fresh lavender and laundry soap. An element burns hot on the stove. Porridge cooking. Its two raisin eyes, bubbles of heat. Now, the next poem I'm going to read is called If I Were a River, and that's the name of my book. So it's my title poem. If I were a river, I'd flow between this world and a parallel universe where my departed dwell. I'd be greeted by you, my loved ones, splash on shore, rest under another sun. I'd restore your baritone, Father, return with your sky painting mother, the tinkle of your voices. Fragments of their color sounds float on my waters. Now, as you recall, in the introduction, I mentioned that I wrote this book during the pandemic. And in a way, it was good that I was able to write a lot because you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't do anything. And I'm very fortunate to live on a street that is very small. We're very close. We all know each other pretty well. And there were a lot of amazing things that happened on this street. And so I recorded some of the things that occurred over probably a 9-10 month period. The next poem is called In Lockdown, the Street is Like a Glass Bowl. Children wait 6 feet apart on chalk-drawn lines on the cul-de-sac. Hopscotch, snakes and ladders, scooters, skateboards, tinkling bicycle bells. The street, their schoolyard. Street cleaner's icy shower washes away their laughter. Heavy rain splatters balloon bouquets, bobbing, giggling heads. A parade of vehicles beeps horns. Happy birthday posters decorate windshields. The neighbor across the street greets guests. Outstretched arms offer boxed cakes and gift baskets. My wish extended 6 feet apart under an umbrella. The street a lake after the downpour. Bird wings splash, dead leaves float, paper-thin corpses. Sun breaks through cloud. I sunbathe in a birdcage of light on my front step. We emerge in early evening, clanging stainless steel spoons, hand-held bells, drums fashioned with empty coffee tins. We inhale each other's news like oxygen, 6 feet apart. Some neighbors wave, bang pots, call out greetings from open windows. The youngest twirl and march until dusk. Sprites under street lamps. Firmly taped to our mailbox, a carefully printed note and crayon drawing of our two homes from the brother and sister in number 14. If you need help, call us. Rose, in her kilt, parades down the street, piping Ode to Joy, Amazing Grace, doors fling open, camera phones flash. The street, a net that holds us, prevents us from drowning. Applause, folding into silence. Now, as I mentioned earlier, my husband Bruce was in hospital in St. John's, Newfoundland for 16 days and quite ill. And I had COVID too. He had COVID and pneumonia. So I couldn't visit him for the first little while. And in that time, I did record like day to day what happened. And that's in the book. If you want to buy it, you can see the day to day, like everything that was going on and everything that he had to deal with and I had to deal with at that time. But I chose to read A Dream Again when he was in hospital. It's called When You Were in Hospital. When you were in hospital, I sat in a room full of doctors dressed in starched white coats. lit my first cigarette in more than 40 years, waited for a doctor to speak. I stood on a mountain wearing the linen blouse, the one you surprised me with. Its yellow radiated across the lake, glinting like midsummer sun. Even the laces in my navy runners transformed into gilded strands. I heard a melody, notes shimmering like birdsong. Not of this world, I told you. How you and I danced and danced. I tell you again how I looked for you on the mountain and in the murky swimming pool, crying out your name when I couldn't find you. I woke, reaching for your hand, clutching only handfuls of darkness. Now, it was a long recovery, and this next poem talks about that a little bit. After my husband's lengthy illness, I watch you digging, your bent back shouldering the heft of lush soil and the slumped rosebush that failed to flaunt her ruby reds under the expanding canopy of the maple's limbs and leaves. A ball of disheveled roots and bush, ready for resettling, weighs on your shovel. You rest in daylight, set the sun-starved convalescent in the wheelbarrow in a gesture so tender it trembles. Well, it's not all, I know it was all difficult and things like that, but my husband and I, we joke around about everything. And this next poem is lighthearted, and we do this honestly every year. It's called Birthday Party. Maybe death is not the tragedy we imagine, but an unsewn party dress or black suede tuxedo jacket that hangs in the closet waiting. Each year, my husband and I plan our 100th birthday, jokesters that we are. What we'll wear, what we'll eat, who will need a wheelchair, who will or will not be there. Maybe death is an open curtain that lets light in for those whose bodies twist and groan with pain, or those whose minds are prisons of fear. Every year, the guest list dwindles. What if I die before you? We ask. Who will book the dance hall? Send out the invites. Better to get our dance moves right while we can, we say, as we hold each other tight, as we dance the night away. The next one I wrote during the pandemic, but I think it's still relevant somehow today. It's called I Dream Mickey Speaks to the World During the Pandemic. And there's an epigraph at the beginning by Mickey Mouse who says, "Oh, Minnie, you're all the music I'll ever need." We need more joy. The goodness in people's hearts sometimes hidden. Our world somber. A large cloud has entered our souls. A dense fog covers everything. And yet, cotton candy is still sugary on children's lips. Minnie and I still stroll hand in hand through Disney World and Disneyland, memorizing the faces, visiting the attractions again and again, never tiring of the magic. Now is the time for kindness when summer is bursting, still bursting with promise. So thanks again to Candace for believing in my work and publishing both of my books, and to Megan for hosting, and just the opportunity to share my work with you and to read with Susan, which is always such a joy. And I'm going to end with this poem. It's called Regeneration. Inside each maple, a record in its rings, seasons of drought, deluge, or a forest fire scar. Even in the driest spells, maples produce their whirlybirds. A few emerge as seedlings, Others are eaten or decay. Inside the body, a history in our cells, seasons of passion and love, disease or sorrow. Even in the grimmest times, we give birth knowing we carry Earth's green renewal in our human core. Thank you very much.